Hello, everyone. So, a few weeks ago, the government put this out to do with social welfare. Now, this is to do with core social welfare payments. Now, I don't mind disabilities and people that are sick, for example. I have no issue with that at all. I do think they should get this. But for people on job seekers and stuff and on the only dole, I don't think they should. Because basically, I'll tell you a few stories now in a second about this, but long stories ago, the government want to increase the €450 a week for job seekers allowance for people that sit at home and do nothing. And I don't think that's fair. It's not fair on the working man who has to get up early in the morning. Take was that I'm only working part time now, but still I'm up early in the morning, going to work at 8 o'clock, sometimes 7 o'clock to go to work. Some mornings I was up at 5 o'clock there to go and cut a few hedges on the side of a road. And again, that's what I'm saying. And I was only working part time, only getting part time money at the moment. And I nearly would be better off staying at home. Because it doesn't make any sense for somebody to be working, and even full time. Take for example, some people even take for example when I had a full time job a few months ago, back in March. I was on €450 a week. So basically, I could get that for sitting at home now after the budget. Could get €450, and again, I had to go out and work for that for 440 hour a week for €450, and that's all I got, and that's what you got for 40 hours. So there you go. So you're better nearly off staying at home than going to work in the civil service. But I was working at the lowest level of the civil service, of course. But what I'm trying to say, it doesn't incentivize people to work. The whole idea of job seekers, as I said from the beginning, job seekers should be only a year and a bit, a year and 6 months at most. You should be allowed to get job seekers, and after that, they cut you off, and you would have to basically find your own job. But for people that are non-Irish, etc., only should be given 3 months of social welfare at most, job seekers. But for an Irish person, it should be a year and 6 months. And if you can't get a job after that, then we have to cut you or force you into a job, etc. Because it's not right that the Irish taxpayer is paying for people to sit at home, etc. People that are fit, and again, I'm not saying about people that are sick. If somebody has an illness, etc., and can't walk, understandable. I'm not going to force people to drive the genuine yet 100% no bother at all. They should be getting the 450. Carers allowance, that's another thing too. They should be getting 450. People on carers and disabilities people that can't walk, etc. have take for example in wheelchairs, etc. And people that are sick and dying, etc. Of course they should get this, but people on job seekers, that's what the money should be going to, people who need it. The people on job seekers shouldn't be getting it for sitting at home, etc. It's fair is fair. I don't think it's fair. And I was on job seekers for 6 weeks before I went on to my job. When I left secondary school, I hated every bit of it. I nearly wouldn't sign on. If I ever lost I'm going to college now, but I wouldn't sign on. I wouldn't sign on. Why should I get money for doing nothing? Why should I? That's as simple as that. Why should any person get money for doing nothing? Now, it would be different if you were doing some kind of course or something like that in a college or some other kind of course, like there's employment courses, etc., that you can do. Fair enough if somebody, but it is hard out there. I'm not going to sit here and say it isn't, especially for young people. It is hard to get work. I understand that, but of course, social welfare need to pull up their boots too in terms of helping people get work, particularly young Irish people. They should be pushing themselves to get jobs for these people, to get good, decent jobs for them instead of working shitty jobs, stacking shelves, etc. Particularly apprenticeships, etc. There's loads of apprenticeships out there for young people. The good career choices, plumbers, etc., electricians, good choices. Even just something, because there's plenty out there for people, but a lot of people, the young people particularly, there's nothing there for them, unfortunately. But the simple reality is we can't have people sitting at home basically being paid for when there's people going out working hard. And I know so many people who are working hard. They're working 2 jobs. There's some person I know that's working 3 jobs. He's working part-time jobs, 3 part-time jobs. Now he's making more than I would be working, and I was on full time, and he was working 3 jobs, and he was making more than I was making. It doesn't matter. I couldn't give a shit. But it's the fact of the matter is that even though I was working full time, and he basically was working full, he was working for 20 hour a week, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, 20 hour a week. So basically, he was working full time too. But what I'm trying to say is he shouldn't have to do that. He shouldn't have to do it. He should get one permanent job, and he shouldn't have to work 3 jobs to pay the bills. But I'm mostly against this. Whatever about maybe giving them a 10 year or maybe 5 year increase, fair enough. But I do think we should change this society that it should be only a year and 6 months at most. You should be allowed to stay on job seekers. And after that, they should cut you and stuff. Of course, if you're not, of course, social welfare, there's people that are on job seekers, etc., that probably shouldn't be on job seekers. People that are sick and stuff, elderly people, they should be on disabilities of the sick. But for a lot of people that are on job seekers, a lot of them are just too lazy to, and I wouldn't blame them. In a lot of cases, they're getting paid more than they would be walking. So, take for example, now I could not go to college now, next week, but I am going to go because at least then I'll be doing something productive for for myself and for the state too, because the state at least I'm doing something productive basically than sitting at home. But what I'm trying to say is, like there'll be a lot of people my age that'll be sitting at home, and I have to go into college at 8 o'clock in the morning, and maybe be getting out at 4 o'clock, etc., doing loads of hard courses, etc., big essays, etc. It's not fair on somebody like me who has to go in, and other people, not just saying me, but I'm just saying other people too. I even know people that are working hard. There's people working fucking mighty hard, and they're not getting they don't get this, they don't get fuel allowance, they don't get other stuff, and they're working and they're busting their bollocks for people that are sitting at home to pay them. It's not fair. It isn't reasonable. Now I understand, like, especially for young people and stuff, that it is tough out there. I'm not going to sit here and say that to you, that this you can get a job with just clicking your fingers. There's people that send in 500 CVs, etc. But it's still not acceptable that people would be on it for, in some cases 3 years, 2 years. It is not acceptable. But I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair on the working person that's paying for this. That's what I'm getting at here. I don't think it is fair. And as I say, we probably should look at in the future probably getting rid of job seekers allowance altogether. I do think it probably should be got rid of nearly altogether. But at the moment, I do think it should be stayed for another while. What I mean by that, for the next few years anyway. But after that, I do think we should probably look about getting rid of it, eventually. Because I do think it's nothing but trouble too. Especially because a lot of people get paid the work for nothing. Basically, I do think it's right. I do think only social welfare should be for people that are disabilities and sick, if you're injured and sick, etc. Because there's an awful lot of money going to job seekers allowance, etc. It's an awful lot. It shouldn't be going probably to the level it is. It's a huge amount of money we're talking about, hundreds and hundreds of billions, like insane amount of money. And it isn't fair, as I say, and I'm only working part-time, but I suppose I have no right now to say about, it isn't fair. But, I'm still getting up early in the morning, going to work, and paying, I'm not paying as much tax as I used to and stuff, of course, but paying a bit. But as I say, I used to get 450. Well, the government have proposed, I used to get 450 when I was full-time working, when I went and worked a 40-hour week. And, it would be disgusting to say that, that say for example somebody that does get 450 euro a week, say for example the restaurant or whatever they work in, they need to be better off at home. That's just the simple reality, because they would be entitled to the fuel allowance, they would be entitled to other social welfare accessories, compared to, say for example me. I was not entitled to the fuel allowance when I was working full time. I wasn't entitled to a medical card. I wasn't entitled to other stuff that you would get if you're on job, like if you're on job seekers and stuff, because a lot of people would be entitled to other stuff. Like just take for example too, when I was on 450 euro a week, just above what because if you were on the minimum wage, just about I was getting a bit more than the minimum wage. You would be entitled to a medical card, etc., because you would be earning less than, say for example, the minimum wage. But I was just above the threshold and stuff, even though I'm not sick, etc. But a lot of people would be getting that on job seekers and stuff. They would be entitled to a medical card, etc., for the expenses, etc. Even bus allowances, etc., for the stuff. But when you're working person, you're not entitled to it. I think the system's basically against people that are working, basically. That's what I'm trying to sit here and say. And as I say, I don't want to sit here and say it's easy to get a job and stuff. It's hard. It's not easy, especially if young children, etc. That's another issue. But what I'm trying to say is work has to pay. And I do think that's what we have an issue in society as a whole, that work is not paying people. It's not paying people. Like, say for example, there's loads of young lads. I'm 23. I've never a hope of owning a house or owning anything. I couldn't give a shit, to be told. I was about to get the government. That's my main goal in life. Like, whatever but owning a house or getting a career. My main goal in life is out to get the state. But what I'm trying to say is, for an only Irish person, a young Irish lad, a young Irish girl, they should be able to get a mortgage, get something. But for 450 euro, take for example when I was working full time too, like, you might as well fucking piss against the wall. What I mean by that is, you get nowhere, basically. You get nowhere in life with only 450 euro a week, because after you pay your bills and stuff, you have very little left. And I'm not sitting here crying about it. I couldn't give a shit. If I cared, I couldn't care less, and past the point and caring less in life. But the simple fact of the matter is that people should be able to live a decent life on 450 euro, and should be getting paid more. For people who get up in the morning and work a 40-hour week, they should be getting more, and they should be getting more to be, because they're going out and working for it. They should be able to get stuff. They should be able to move forward in life. But the simple reality is, and I tell you, for somebody that worked over the last 5 years, nearly 40 hours a week, you get fuck all. Like, to put it nicely, you get fuck all. And that's just the simple truth. And I think that's so wrong. I'm not saying it for myself. I couldn't give a fuck, to be totally honest. As long as I'm getting something and I have enough to do me, that's the main thing with me. I couldn't care less. So don't think it's me here saying, oh, poor me and stuff. I don't care. But for other people, they should be able to have a family in life. I don't care. I probably only have a few years left anyway, so you know, like, yeah, I don't. I'm past the point in caring about myself, but for other people, I do think they should have the opportunity to achieve stuff, and I think that's fair. I think that's a reasonable thing to say in Ireland in 2026. Anyway, do let me know what you think. Subscribe for more and bye.